Welcome to Learn at Work podcast, which is sponsored by iOS Press, the publisher of Work, a journal of prevention, assessment, and rehabilitation. We're delighted to host this podcast that will bring together insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions on topics that matter most in the realm of health, rehabilitation, work, prevention, and assessment. What can you expect from our podcast? We'll have expert interviews, individuals who have published in the journal, and we'll dive into conversations with leaders who have shared their valuable experience and expertise. You'll learn about different latest work trends, technology, and best practices. I'm Karen Jacobs, the founding editor of Work, and I'm the moderator of these podcasts. Welcome to this episode of Learn at Work. I am thrilled to have two guests on today's podcast, T and Carol. And what we'll do is I'll have you introduce yourselves. I always like to know where you are geographically. I'm in Boston, and we can start off with that. And then I have a few questions to ask you. So, Carol, want to go first? Where are you located?
I'm located in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Great. Thank you. And T, where are you located?
I'm located in Needham, Massachusetts.
Great, which is pretty close by to Boston. So thank you both for being on Learn at Work. You're going to be guest co-editors of a special issue for Work. But before we get there, let's talk about your careers. I'd love you to maybe walk us through your careers, what your profession is and what you've been doing with your career. And if there's any area that you'd like to highlight. And Carol, let's have you go first.
Well, my career, I've had one career, which has been occupational therapy, but I've had different, I would say, specialties within that career. I've worked in pediatrics, I've worked in geriatrics, I've worked with teens. Basically, I've worked across the lifespan. The oldest client I had was 107 years old, and the youngest was 17 months.
Wow, you have been across the age span. Oh, thank you. And how about you, T? How about your career?
I've had a few different careers, and if I step back to when I applied to and entered college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I went to Babson because my mom worked there, and so my tuition was free. I'm one of 8 children, and I was expected to go to college, but also expected to pay for it myself. And I had no idea what my ideal career was or my calling. So I majored in marketing and communication, and after college, I worked in marketing. But I knew even while I was at Babson that there was something else out there for me, but I wasn't sure. And I wasn't ready to make a big change. But after a few years, I went part time to Bentley while I was working full time, and I received my MBA from Bentley. And when I was about 30, I investigated what did I really want to do. And I took career tests and I shadowed a variety of health and healthcare workers. And as soon as I learned about occupational therapy, I knew this was my career. I just felt this like inside of me. So I volunteered with several OTs and then I applied to OT school. And I studied at Tufts because it was close by and had a flexible path of study. So I could start in the summer and spread the classes out a bit more. And I did a lot of clinicals and I decided I really wanted to work with children. And I had a lot of experience with children from my family and from babysitting for years and years. So I felt at ease with all ages and abilities. And I began working in school-based practice after graduation. But over time, I started my own business to help families in their home environment. And I continue to work with families in person and a bit online. And in 2017, I completed my doctorate in occupational therapy and I began to teach and assist with some classes in occupational therapy. I love making a difference through working and getting to play with kids and teens as an occupational therapist.
I love that. Yeah, you really sort of had a discovery process of occupational therapy. And I have to say, it was not a first career for me either. And once I found it, it really just resonated with me and became compelling to become an occupational therapist. So you both are going to be the co-guest editors of a special issue for work. And the topic that you are going to be doing is something that is really important to you. So, first, maybe say what the topic is, but then could you go back in time about how you became interested in this topic and some of the initiatives that you're doing? So, Carol or T, who'd like that question?
I can start with that question. Our topic is occupational therapy and how that intersects with climate change. And how I became interested in it was through Occupational Therapists for Environmental Action, which is a grassroots organization of occupational therapy practitioners, CODAs, and students who were coming together to discuss how we can approach this and make an impact out in the world and in our practices and in our lives. And what I discovered, which is really quite interesting, is that I have always practiced occupational therapy in a very sustainable way, but I never identified with it in that way. So through my work with OTEA, I realized that occupational therapy for me is inherently and essentially very sustainable because we are working with people in their environments, and that's in their built environments, and that's in their natural environments. And we are just using whatever is accessible and meaningful for people in their environments.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And T, did you want to add anything to the topic?
Sure. I wanted to tell about the special issue. So, Carol and I are co editors of a special issue for the journal Work, and it's on work, health, and meaningful occupation in the age of climate change. And for this special issue, we're considering manuscripts across a broad range of professions and occupations that are addressing climate, sustainability, education on those topics, mitigation, adaptation, and resilience, with a core premise that for people to thrive, our planet must thrive too. And the topics we're looking for, but are not limited to, include creation of new work roles, transformation of existing work roles, the role of meaningful occupation as a form of regenerative activism, the inherent connection between human, business, and planetary thriving, consideration for occupational health, safety, and justice in the emerging areas of climate and sustainability work, and also responsibility of workers across all professions and occupations to pivot in response to this climate crisis, and strategies for climate adaptation to increase participation in meaningful occupations. And lastly, we're also looking for any case examples on these topics or related topics. And
That's
we're looking for these from all professions, not just from occupational therapy.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I think this topic is critical, and that we all need to have a better understanding how we can participate in making sure that we have a healthy planet. And I think some of the topics that you were, um, I guess, asking people to write about are very compelling. For you and Carol, is there a topic within what you were sharing that is of great interest to you?
For me, I'm interested in the intersection of healthcare workers and workers in general and the environment.
Great.
My
Healthcare.
child, yeah, healthcare workers and workers, the interaction of our jobs and the environment. My children are both environmental engineers, and one also studied environmental science. And we've always been interested in the environment. We grew up like camping, hiking, spending time outdoors. And my kids were both in scouts, and that fostered like the knowledge of our whole family of the natural environment. And so I've been learning more and more about climate change and sustainability, and we're hoping through this special issue that we can share some of this topic information. Um, and the part that really hits home to me is the role of meaningful occupation and how that's changing because of climate change.
Great. And for those people who don't know what meaningful occupation is, maybe you could elaborate a little bit here?
Sure, we all have a lot of occupations. Many people just think when we ask, what is your occupation? Traditionally, that's meant like your job. But for occupational therapists, we think of occupations very broadly because we can work with people on helping them with any of their occupations. And that would include like their self care, things like buying, preparing, eating food, taking care of their family, and also their living space, their rest, their sleep, reading, and doing other leisure activities. Both it could be things for work or enjoyment. Also, their education and managing their health and their sleep, and anything with social is also part of occupation. So when we look at it, it's very broad, and we're thinking about for this issue, how is climate change changing those occupations? And for some people, it might be because resources in their area are changing or because heat has increased, heat related events. They might have to migrate because, and so their occupations might be changing because of migration. Those are just some examples.
Great. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I love that this is something that resonates from, beginning with your family as well. Carol, any additional thoughts regarding the special issue that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there was a manuscript recently submitted, and it's about the impact of climate change on occupations here in Minnesota. And this past winter was an incredibly dry and mild winter, especially for Minnesota. And the manuscript describes all of the occupations that have been impacted by this change in climate, such as people who work on doing shoveling snow plowers. For many people, this is their primary, if not secondary, income. But also recreation. There's no skiing, there isn't any snowshoeing. So all of these occupations, which include work and play, have changed. And
Yes.
there are a lot of people who are really lamenting this because these are very important and very meaningful occupations.
Carol, thank you for sharing that. I'm a cross country skier, and I was feeling that way last winter in New Hampshire. The same sort of issue with lack of snow. Um, so it's impactful on things that are meaningful to us. Speaking about that, um, on a personal level, what are some meaningful occupations that you do?
Well, for me, one of my most meaningful occupations is gardening. I'm definitely a dirt mama. I love to get my hands in the dirt, and there are antidepressants that are in the dirt, and I just feel the sense of connection to the earth and to my source. And I also am a nurturing person, so I love to see things grow. And so it gives me a great amount of joy. It's also great exercise and can also be very relaxing for me.
That's great. And T, how about you?
So, besides my work, which I love as an occupational therapist, an important one for me is exercise, and I usually do 1 to 2 activities every day, including swimming, yoga, walking, jogging, biking, hiking, and then your occasional other ones like skiing if there's enough snow. And I often like combine occupations. So this morning, for instance, I went for a sunrise swim at our beautiful Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts, with 2 other people. So that potentially combined health management with social and leisure occupations. And to top it off, it's somewhat spiritual as well because you're in nature and appreciating its beauty and wonder. So, exercise is one of my meaningful occupations.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you made me feel like I should drive to Walton Pond and take a swim tonight. Thank you. Thank you for recommending that. I love swimming too.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it's a great way to start or end the day.
yes, it's wonderful. So, as we're ending this episode, could each of you share what's your why? What gets you going in the morning?
I think what gets me going in the morning is I'm hoping that everything, all the work that I do, will make this planet a better place to live for
Yeah.
everybody, and especially for future generations, because this is one of the critical things that's happening now with climate change. Is what is going to happen with our future generations. I have
Hmm.
children, and I worry about what's going to happen with them, with their occupations.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think for me, it's getting up and feeling like, am I making a difference? And that's, I think, what's very important.
And I would say the very similar thing. I think Carol and I have that in common, and I think that's part of the reason we work so well together. Is we both like to try to make a positive difference. And when I found out about the OTEA, it was this opportunity to understand with this very difficult situation we're facing, how can someone like myself or Carol, how can we like spread information among our profession and beyond it and make a difference in that area and in day to day little ways through our lives, both at home and with friends and with our occupation of work.
That's great. Um, Thank you both for being on today. I eagerly look forward to um, publishing your special issue. And for people who would like to interact with you, is there a website, a LinkedIn site, an email, anything you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, occupational therapists for environmental action, we have a website, and it's environmentalaction.com. And they can go to that website and see what kinds of events are taking place. There's resources. There's a lot of education on that website, and also our monthly meetings that we hold via Zoom.
Great,
And I'm
great.
on LinkedIn. This is T speaking. I'm on LinkedIn and I have a Facebook web page as well.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for being on Learn at Work. Our listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much.